East, west, north, south, Trinidad and Tobago has stadia all about, and it's presented a headache for ministers of the past, all the way up to the present minister. That financial term called recurrent expenditure. Recurrent expenditure is that money that is spent on a regular basis but yields no income or revenue. Things like paying the wages and salaries of employees, buying goods and services such as office equipment, maintenance for all the stadia across the country, and repaying loans, of which the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs has quite a few. Now, in the last budget statement, the ministry aimed to repay 3 major loans on its books. Close to $72 million to First Citizens Bank for the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, roughly $43 million to Answer Merchant Bank for a loan taken out to build 9 recreational facilities, and $3 million to UDCOT. It was last budgeted in October that recurrent expenditure would be a whopping 70% slice out of the sporting allocation for this financial year. Already works have started and progressed to Phase 3 at the Dwight York Stadium in Bacalet, Tobago. The Jean Pierre complex is also set to get a much-needed refurbishment, while an upgrade for Skinner Park in San Fernando was announced in June.
How concerned are you about another project coming on stream that may be a recurrent burden on the taxpayer?
What do? Sit and watch the facilities become more and more dilapidated, or do we refurbish and redevelopment and bring them into a new time, develop business plans for them so that they could generate income and generate economic activity for the different cities and the communities, and that's what this project is all about.
Back in June, Minister Shamfa Kojo was adamant that spending millions in refurbishment was a necessity, and the country could wait no longer in repairing and upgrading stadia that had been left to dilapidate for decades.
We have to do much work as it relates to bringing our facilities into 2020 or 2025, 2030, when we talk about all the different development goals. We look at Hazley Crawford Stadium and Jean Pierre complex that's going to be worked on this year. We're also doing that work through UDCOT, and that's now before Cabinet as it relates to fleshing out the scope of works and so on. And we are going to be refurbishing and redeveloping each and every one of these major facilities so that they become not just facilities for training, but facilities from which we could generate income and economic activity for Trinidad and Tobago.
The thoughts of the sport company chairman Douglas Camacho align with that of the minister, and he feels we as a country continue to make the mistake of building but not maintaining. Do you ever regret that we have so much stadia in this country to maintain?
I can't say I have a regret that we have so many. I do think we have perhaps one of the highest per capita of quality stadia in the world.
It is.
Probably.
It is.
Maybe number one. But I do think it's an area that, not just in sport, but as a nation, is where we tend to drop the ball. We build nice things, we tend not to maintain them as well. We often wait until complete degradation and have to spend a fortune to rebuild. You know, it's almost as if it's easier to find capital and recurrent, and maybe it is sometimes. But I think it's an area we have to be careful. But all for, to use the old phrase, all for the want of a horseshoe nail. You know, you can't have a whole stadium not being available for something because the plumbing or the electrics or something that, in the scheme of things, a $200 million facility is suboptimal because of $1 million. It just does not make sense.
As Minister Kojo alluded to in June, the government hopes by refurbishing and upgrading facilities across the country, it can start making some money, which brings us to the familiar tune of sports tourism.
And they have done it! Trinbago, Munro's going on! The players are running everywhere! They are the champions!
Sung every year at every budget, but no government has ever managed to actually get the note right. Brian Lewis has been one of the most vocal sporting presidents advocating for a serious grant charge on this country's behalf towards sports tourism.
The sport industry is and should be a key economic driver in the diversification of the Trinidad and Tobago economy. Let me just say, the other oil-dependent economies, such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and these countries have made the sport industry a key part of their diversification away from oil and energy dependent and an oil and energy dependent economy. And I strongly believe that Trinidad, they must understand why they're doing that, and it is something that I think that Trinidad and Tobago must do And I'm expecting, as I said, that's why I'm saying that this is probably one of the most important budgets in the history of sport in Trinidad and Tobago.
And Lewis has broadened his thinking, and he would like the government to do so too. He feels more ministries can achieve a lot more when it comes to tourism.
Let me say, it's not just sport. I believe that the same emphasis needs to be paid on music, our culture, our carnival, our events. For too many years, we have ignored, underinvested, undervalued, and underestimated the importance of, for want of a better word, the grassroots activities such as carnival, sports, music, art, and drama to the economy and the economic well-being of Trinidad and Tobago.
Sudhir Ramesar also feels the Paralympic movement has much to contribute when it comes to diversifying the economy. But the Paralympic Committee president insists the disabled community he represents, both in and out of sport, has never really been given a fair chance to make a contribution or prove they can make a contribution in this society.
I will tell you this, if there's support for power sports, it is another avenue for us to move one sector of the country or the economy from a dependency syndrome to independence syndrome, because disabled people are constantly being asked to depend on state funding via grants, whether it be disability grant. But if we encourage them to take to sports and develop, they'll move away from a dependency syndrome. And only then would Trinidad and Tobago truly say they have developed themselves, because we have developed the human capital of the land.
As the budget nears, Ramesar hopes to see a shift in thinking, action, and a commitment towards the disabled community of this country.
I would like to see greater commitment, greater support, not only for the organization, but most importantly for the athletes, not the ones who are established also, but those aspiring athletes.
It's a vast and complicated ministry, the Sport and Youth Affairs. In speaking with NAAA President Ephraim Surratt, what he would like to see are more interministerial collaborations and partnerships on various projects. In times where the ratio of the recurrent expenditure heavily outweighs that of the reality of the sporting allocation, Surratt feels sharing the burden could help the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs.
What we would like to see on our part is the collaboration between the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Sport, Ministry of Community Development. These, and together with the national sporting organizations, to develop programs either within communities and schools. So we cannot be speaking about sport in school and education and not speaking to the Ministry of Sport. We can't be speaking about sports in community and the Community Development Ministry is not speaking with the Ministry of Sport. So we need to have that collaborative effort between these ministries.
And this type of collaboration will prove essential as Trinidad and Tobago moves towards hosting the 2021 Commonwealth Youth Games. Having won the bid in June, Brian Lewis, who is also the president of the Commonwealth Games Association, says this budget will be extremely important because most of the work for the Commonwealth Youth Games of 2021 will have to take place in this financial year.
For example, the priority, of course, in this fiscal will be the hotel accommodation and getting that firmed up, because it is over 1,500 people in terms of the actual accreditation for the Commonwealth Youth Games that we have to provide. But as I said, it's challenging, but it's exciting, because we have in this situation the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and the Commonwealth Youth Games 2021 kind of overlapping. So it presents some unique challenges.
This man is tasked with overcoming those unique challenges.
We have achieved a Herculean task.
And not just the sports ministry, but 19 others. In the middle of the dilemmas of recurrent expenditure, deficits, and Olympics, and elections next year, and a stifling economy, stands Commonwealth.
In the words of the well-known song written by Paul Anka and sung by Frank Sinatra, we did it our way.